First story. My ex-wife sued me for child support, even though we share custody of our child. I went along with it and watched as she and her lawyer embarrassed themselves in front of the judge. I have a 5-year-old daughter with my ex-wife. We broke up about 2.5 years ago. During our marriage, we had ups and downs, though we never argued or fought per se. We often negotiated with strong emotions and opinions but always managed to find some common ground. That's why I was surprised when she told me she wanted a divorce. I cried for a few days, went fishing, and then began planning on how to figure things out. At that point, neither of us had enough income to keep both our car and our house. We agreed that I would take care of selling the car while she would get a realtor to sell the house. However, I ended up handling both tasks. We had more debt than money, and she tried to leave all the debt to me while she started with a clean slate. I refused and made sure everything, assets and debt, was split evenly. We agreed that our daughter would spend time with both of us, splitting it equally, as she had the right to have both parents in her life. We also promised to act civilly, but that didn't last long. We agreed that since our salaries were similar, neither of us would pay child support. Additionally, she would take care of buying most of the clothes and essentials for our child since she was receiving about €100 per month in child benefits from the Finnish government. After the breakup, my ex started ordering new furniture for herself, even before finding a new apartment, despite not having the money for it. 2 weeks later, she moved out, and a week after that, I heard from our daughter that she had a new boyfriend. I didn't care much, though I raised my eyebrows. She often called in sick to work for trivial reasons, and when her boss gave her feedback, instead of adjusting, she quit her job. She then applied to school, got accepted, but quit after 2 months. It was then she started demanding child support. We consulted a professional who confirmed that I still didn't need to pay child support since my ex had caused her own income to collapse. As a goodwill gesture, I offered to pay for our daughter's insurance. I thought the matter was settled, but a few months later, she got pregnant by her new boyfriend, married him after our divorce was finalized, and began demanding money again. Last fall, she demanded child support again, claiming it was for our child, but I knew it was because she envied my financial stability. She had expressed jealousy over the fact that, even with a similar income, I could afford small luxuries like eating out. I told her that if she needed support for legitimate reasons, I would help, but we needed to properly calculate expenses to determine the amount. Instead, she demanded €200 per month without any justification, except for her need for control. She even threatened to sue me if I didn't comply. I laughed it off, until I got a message from her lawyer. At that point, I told her we would only communicate through our lawyers. Over the next couple of months, things started to look bad for her case. When I received the court papers, I noticed her claim was based on false information. She and her lawyer hadn't even asked for my income or expenses before suing me. They overestimated my income and underestimated my expenses. I messaged her again, asking if she was sure she didn't want to settle, but she refused. After calculating both our incomes and expenses, my lawyer and I confirmed that not only did she have enough money to raise our child, but she actually had more disposable income than I did. When she sent false evidence to both my lawyer and the judge, we caught it immediately. A few days later, my lawyer got a call from her lawyer, who admitted the case was based on lies and offered to settle. However, for some reason, my ex refused to settle. We went to court. The judge, clearly annoyed, asked her lawyer to state their demands. Her lawyer started to explain the backstory, but the judge cut him off, telling him to get to the point. After a moment of silence, her lawyer sheepishly admitted that they had no demands. The judge was dumbfounded and furious, asking, "Then why are we here?" My lawyer responded, "That's what we're asking too." The judge then asked her lawyer why they hadn't settled, and he reluctantly explained that my ex wouldn't agree. The judge ordered us to negotiate a settlement in a meeting room. Since my ex had more money, we agreed she would cover most of our daughter's expenses, including hobbies and insurance. The judge approved the agreement, and my lawyer and I left the courtroom feeling victorious, while my ex was visibly angry and embarrassed. A few weeks ago, my ex demanded we change the custody schedule. I declined, reminding her we had an agreement. She threatened to sue me again, and I simply asked if she really wanted to go through that experience once more. She got mad, and I ignored it. About a week ago, she messaged me to say she had a fight with her husband, attacked him, and the police were called. Since our child was present, Child Protective Services was notified. Now, her life is in shambles. 2 kids by different fathers, 2 divorces before 30, a mountain of debt, and it looks like our daughter will spend most of her time with me, which is what she has wanted for the past 2 years. My ex-wife sued me for child support for nonsensical reasons. She lost the case and now has to pay more than half of our child's expenses. If you want to sue me over nonsense, be prepared for your life to turn into nonsense as well. Second story. When my daughter wanted to walk down the aisle with her cheating mother instead of me, I refused to pay for the wedding. Now, she wants to take it all back. To give some context, my ex-wife cheated on me when our daughter was 12, and we've had shared custody ever since. I love my daughter, and I knew what it would do to her if I exposed her mother's actions, so we kept it a secret. I made sure that her mental health was prioritized, ensuring that she wasn't affected by our divorce in any way. Whenever my daughter would come back from spending time with her mom and tell me how fun her mother was, I would agree while hiding my hatred for my ex-wife. I even found it cute how my daughter never hesitated to say she loved both of us. Despite my work commitments managing businesses that took up most of my days, I always made sure to spend quality time with her. For her 17th birthday, I chipped in with her mom to get her a new car. Since I earned more, I contributed a larger amount, but it didn't bother me. My daughter absolutely loved the gift and thanked her mom for days on end. I thought it was odd that she never once thanked me, but I was happy because she was happy. After she turned 18, she started spending more time at her mom's house. Confident in how I had raised her, I trusted her to make her own decisions as an adult. I gave her independence, letting her live her life as she saw fit. Since I only communicated with her mother when it involved picking up or dropping off our daughter, I had no idea how they spent their time together. Little did I know, my ex-wife was poisoning my daughter's mind against me. Regardless, I helped my daughter get into the best college in our city and paid her full tuition so she wouldn't have to get a job. I wanted her to focus on her academics or whatever else she wanted to pursue. Looking back, once again, there was a lack of gratitude from her side, but I didn't ask for thanks. I did it because I loved her. Now, she's 26, living on her own, and was recently proposed to by the love of her life, whom she met in college. I was thrilled for her and immediately called to congratulate her. During that conversation, I offered to pay for her wedding, wanting to make her special day even more wonderful. Knowing her fiancé was a good man, I was happy to give her away in style. She was excited and said I made her even happier. Sadly, this excitement turned into one of the worst experiences of my life. A few days later, my daughter called and told me that she wanted her mother to walk her down the aisle instead of me. I was shocked and confused, not understanding why she'd want this. I loved her deeply and had always dreamed of doing this for her. She tried to brush it off, saying it was no big deal, something her mother wanted. I told her that I also wanted to walk her down the aisle, as her father, and that I had every right to do so. She became upset, screaming at me to calm down, even though I hadn't raised my voice. She insisted that it was her choice and she had decided on her mother. When I tried to tell her how much it hurt me, especially since her mother had cheated on me, she accused me of lying to manipulate her and hung up. I was devastated. I had always done my best for her. I gave her everything, ensured she was happy, and never neglected her. I even stayed in contact with the woman who broke my heart. Then I received a message from my ex-wife, calling me a horrible person for ruining our daughter's wedding by making unreasonable demands. I screenshotted the message and sent it to my daughter, expecting her to see the truth. But to my shock, she agreed with her mother, saying I should leave her alone. It was like my whole world had collapsed. After hours of crying, I made a decision. I would no longer pay for the wedding. They couldn't afford their dream wedding without my help, but I didn't care. If my daughter had lost all love for me, I wasn't going to be their bank. I sent her a text explaining my feelings and why I no longer felt comfortable funding the wedding. Then I blocked her and threw myself into my work to distract myself. Update. It's been a few days since I sent that message, and my daughter has completely changed her tone. She's been apologizing nonstop, posting on social media about how great I am. But after that call, I can't see her actions as anything other than damage control. It's clear she was just using me for the wedding money. I've refused to accept her apology. Even her mother has texted, apologizing for both the past and the present, asking me to reconsider. It's almost funny how both of them are groveling now that the money is no longer on the table. Oh, and I've also stopped the allowance I used to send my daughter. Thirst story. My sister-in-law DNA tested my daughter behind my back and paraded the results in front of her face. So, I told her why the test came back negative, and all her plans backfired. I have a daughter who is 6 years old, but I am not biologically related to her at all. There is no blood relation between us. I was friends with her mother for almost all of my childhood. We were never involved romantically, we were always just friends. When my daughter was a newborn, about 3 months old, both her biological parents tragically passed away. For privacy reasons, I won't go into too much detail, but it was a workplace shooting. Both my friend and her husband had worked in the same building and were killed together. Neither my friend nor her husband had any close family. Both grew up in less than ideal households and didn't have siblings. With no next of kin, there was no one for their daughter to go to. However, since I was close to them, I was able to adopt her. Even though I had been uncertain about having kids, I didn't want their daughter to grow up in foster care or be around people who had no connection to her biological parents, so I stepped in. Initially, I wasn't thrilled about becoming a parent, but I grew to love her as my own. My parents and siblings are aware that my daughter is not biologically mine. My daughter, who I'll call Lily for this post, also knows that she's adopted. I never hid it from her. She knows her biological parents are gone and that they were killed by a bad man. However, I'm saving the more painful details for when she's older. Lily doesn't resemble me at all. She looks exactly like her biological mother and father. Most people assume I'm her biological dad and that she just takes after her mother. I don't usually correct them because it feels unnecessary. My brother has been with his fiancée for about 2 years now, and they have a 1-year-old together. A few weeks ago, we all met up at my parents' house, and my sister-in-law saw an old picture of me, my friend, and her husband. She pointed to my friend and asked who she was, so I explained that she was Lily's biological mother. My sister-in-law got quiet and stood in front of the picture for a while, but I didn't think much of it. To clarify, my sister-in-law knew my friend had passed, but I guess she didn't realize that Lily's parents had been married or that Lily wasn't my biological daughter. She must have assumed Lily was the child of me and my friend. At dinner that evening, my parents announced that they were setting up a college fund for both children, and each would receive $50,000. We were all happy to hear this, and afterward, we returned home. However, over the following month, I noticed my sister-in-law becoming distant from my daughter. Anytime Lily played with her son, my sister-in-law would quickly pull him away, saying he needed a nap. When Lily asked her questions, she would ignore her, claiming to be busy, even when she was just scrolling through her phone. Then, one day, my sister-in-law showed up at my house and told me she had something urgent to share. That's when I found out that she had secretly DNA tested my daughter using my brother's DNA. When the results came back showing no relation, she confronted me with the test results, waving them in my face and accusing me of raising a dead woman's affair baby. She said this in front of my daughter. I just stared at her for a while before bursting into laughter. I told her that, of course, I knew Lily wasn't my biological daughter. There's this thing called adoption. Her face turned red, and she stormed off. My brother was furious that I had embarrassed his fiancée, but I told him she embarrassed herself by DNA testing a child that wasn't hers, and then flaunting the results at me. What did she expect me to do? Was her goal for me to break down and abandon my daughter? My brother insisted that she thought she was doing the right thing, and called me heartless, but I honestly don't feel bad, especially considering she stuck her nose where it didn't belong. Update. After everything that happened with my sister-in-law and the DNA test, things took a surprising turn. It turns out her motivations were more selfish than I had initially thought. She went directly to my parents and confidently informed them that Lily wasn't my biological daughter, thinking she was making some grand revelation. My parents, who have always known that Lily is adopted, just let her talk. She then argued that since Lily isn't my real daughter, it wasn't fair for her to receive the same $50,000 college fund as her son, whom she referred to as the legitimate one. She even suggested that the entire $100,000 should go to her son and that Lily shouldn't get anything since she isn't blood-related. My parents didn't take this well at all. My usually kind and calm mother kicked her out of the house, making it clear that Lily is their grandchild, regardless of biology. She told my sister-in-law that if she couldn't accept that, she didn't belong in our family. Since then, both my sister-in-law and my brother have been quiet. I think my brother finally had a serious talk with her because he texted me later, apologizing for everything. He didn't go into many details, but I can imagine that conversation wasn't easy. As for me, I'm just glad my parents stood up for Lily. She doesn't need to know that someone tried to push her out of the family for money. All she needs to know is that she's loved, and I'll make sure she feels that every day.